Welcome to Conversations With. My name is Shaley Hoogendoorn and I live with bipolar 2 disorder. Sharing with others is healing, both individually and collectively. Sharing our stories will educate others, bring more understanding, shed more light, and smash more stigma. Our voices need to be heard. Our stories aren't over yet. This is Bipolar. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to This is Bipolar. If it's your first time here, I am Shaley Hoogendoorn. I'm a mom. I am a wife. I'm a mental health advocate, speaker, and I substitute for elementary school. I live with bipolar 2 disorder, and I just started the podcast just so that I could help end stigma around it and just show a face and a voice of someone that's living with it right now. I am so excited about my guest today because my favorite is to interview people that I don't know their whole story. So then it's like exciting for me. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know I have subscriptions on Instagram. So you can subscribe right there on Instagram and you'll get access to extra content. You get to hear some of the Going Deeper episodes. So every person I talk to, they share some of their strategies or we pick a different topic. So people love that. And then the most special thing that I love is that I have a peer support group every month on Zoom. And so there is a beautiful group of bipolar bears that show up from all over the world and we just connect. And it's just like being with people that truly get it, right? You don't have to mask it all. It's a really beautiful space. And there are new people that come all the time. So you wouldn't just be the new person. And then you share if you're comfortable. We have people sometimes that don't turn their camera on or waiting till they're more comfortable. Otherwise, you can share as much or as little as you want. So if you have any trouble subscribing, just message me on Instagram at this.is.bipolar and we'll get started. If it's your first time here, I am Shaley Hoogendoorn. I'm a mom. I am a wife. I'm a mental health advocate, speaker, and I substitute for elementary school. I live with bipolar 2 disorder and I just started the podcast just so that I could help end stigma around it and just show a face and a voice of someone that's living with it right now. So I'm so excited for my new friend to introduce herself.
Thanks, Shaley. Thanks so much for having me on This is Bipolar podcast. So yes, my name's Jade Rose. I'm similar to you. I'm many different things, wearing many different hats in this season of my life. So I'm also a mother of 2 young kids. I'm a wife. I am a writer. I've got a novel currently querying with agents, which is actually about, it's a fiction novel, but it's about the lived experience of the tumultuous time before receiving a bipolar diagnosis and what that journey looks like. So very exciting there. I've also work in the corporate space. So I'm a talent professional and I run a podcast as well called the Neuro Diaries, which is interviewing people with lived experience of mental health conditions, neurodivergence, experiencing mental illness, so a wide range of conditions there. And I'm a mental health advocate. And you might be able to tell from my accent, I'm Australian. So I'm all the way from down in the Snowy Mountains region of, it's a rural place in Australia. So that's me. I'm an avid yogi. I'm a big reader. I'm addicted to coffee. I just did a gut cleanse and my goal was to get off coffee, but I have failed that. All I realized was that my entire personality runs on caffeine. So that's where I am today.
You're like, that is a joy stealer. I am not giving that up. Oh my goodness. We're going to have a whole nother time where we talk about books and yoga because me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I love
Great.
it. I love reading. And so, yeah, we'll have to talk about that. And I'm really excited to hear more about your podcast. That's so cool. It's always fun for me to talk to another podcaster because I don't know about you, when you're actually doing the interview, it's super fun and there's connection, which is what I'm all about. But the rest of it is lonely work. Right?
Yeah.
And
It's a
even,
lot of work that goes in behind the scenes. Like my favorite part is definitely doing the interviews and having the conversations. And it's the best thing is like breaking the connection because we connect on Instagram and in the community and you get to know these people. But when you get to do a podcast interview, you actually get to break that third wall and actually have a conversation and find out
yeah.
more about them and who they are and what goes on for them. So I love that bit, but it is quite solo work, I guess, the rest of it.
Yeah. And I, from the very beginning, when we first started, I had a co-host and she was passionate about editing. So we were like
Okay,
the
great.
best team. But then
That's
she's
handy.
writing another book and now I edit. And it's not my favorite thing. It's not my favorite thing, but I do it and you do it and we're here. Amazing.
Here we are.
I'm excited to hear. We'll talk about your book later on. I'm excited to hear about that too, because often I get a lot of memoirs sent to me, but there's not a lot of fiction books from people with lived experience. So that's really
Okay.
exciting. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
cool.
amazing. I would love to hear, I would love to hear right the build up or what was going on before your diagnosis that led to
Mm.
your diagnosis. What did your life look like?
Yeah, great question. So I was 24 when I received my diagnosis. And this time of my life, I was in my first serious relationship with my now husband. And this is going back about 9 years ago. So at that point in time, we'd been together for maybe 2 years. And I had been on a uni exchange in that time. So we'd done a bit of long distance. But I'd been through a period of about 18 months where I was really low and I just wasn't getting any better. And
Mm,
it was a really confusing time because in any given week, I would spend about 3 or 4 days very debilitated, like
mm,
very much I don't want to say like that stereotype of can't get out of bed. Like I can usually get myself out of bed, but it's just that I probably shouldn't. Like I'm not good for anything. I'm
mm,
very teary, so I struggle to actually pull it together enough to get out into the world. And even when I do, like my eyes get so red and puffy from just days of crying that it makes it very hard to actually go out in public. And I just had tried everything in my toolbox to try and get better and it just wasn't working. My relationship was really suffering and
mm,
he didn't know how to help me. And it wasn't really put as an ultimatum, but I guess you could call it that, where it was like, I don't know how to help you anymore. If you're not going to get help and try and fix this, I don't know what more I can do. I then decided to go and see a psychologist. And I guess the reason I hadn't gone beforehand is that psychology, mental illness was not something that was really ever spoken about in my family.
mm,
If it was, I'd heard a lot of comments from my parents that it's not real or how stupid or just go for a walk sort of thing. So in my mind, I thought that can't be it or I'm not that bad. I've got to
mm.
be a lot worse to actually go and get help for it. But I realized at this point that it would be worth it to go and see what happened. So that was the lead up to what took me to get help. I went into this great organization in Australia called Headspace. So they're actually a free resource for youth, so under
Mm.
25. So everything I did with them was free. They did a full physical screening to check if there wasn't any sort of underlying hormonal or physical problem causing the imbalances. And she said to me in one of the first sessions when I described what I was feeling that sometimes I'm really articulate and I'm really charismatic. I think very clearly and everything's fine. And then other times I just can't think. I get very confused and I have these periods where I can't stop crying. And she very quickly said to me, okay, but have you ever had periods of quite the opposite where you might have a racing mind or you might have trouble sleeping or you feel great and euphoric and invincible? And I was like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And if I was going to categorize the period of my life prior to that low time, like that is how I would describe it. I was early 20s. I was going out a lot. I was drinking heavily. I was taking drugs. I was just out. I was excited. I was out of control, I guess, if that's what my friends would have said I was the wild one. And that's how I'd categorize that time of my life. And then looking back even further, I can see this pattern going back
Mhm.
into high school. I have like a year where I'm like barely spoke to anyone. I have a year where I didn't really sleep and just exercised all the time. Like I can identify this going back to probably mid-teen years.
Yeah, same. And I find it so interesting that for the longest time, it's not common to diagnose younger than 20s. But I'm
Yeah.
interviewing more people and I'm hearing more people get diagnosed in earlier because same, I can look back and I could
Yeah.
be like, oh, that's what it was. And I'm actually feeling quite encouraged by that because I just think about I was diagnosed when I was 32. So it was a
Hmm.
long time to live with it, right?
Yeah.
And it I look back and I'm just like, how did I don't
How
even
did you do that? Yeah.
right. I didn't know. I didn't know. And that's amazing that they asked that right away because I was repeatedly diagnosed with depression, like every
Mm,
time. Yeah.
yeah.
Never asked me if there was other periods because I don't know about you, but I thought the other part was like quote unquote like normal Shaley. And then the
Mm,
sadness part
yeah.
wasn't me.
I get
Wow.
that because you want that to be the like when you feel energy and you feel good and you're productive and you're charismatic. Yeah, you want that to be the normal. That's not
Yeah.
it's not necessarily an issue until it goes too far. So it's
Right.
like and it's a very different frame of reference from the depressive episodes.
Yeah. And in Australia, when you went to this, could you get an appointment right away? Was it quite easy to get an appointment?
It was fairly easy to get in with the physical screening and the psychologist. As part of their sort of treatment, I saw her for about 6 months every 2 weeks or so. But to get the official diagnosis, you have to see a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And that appointment took months and then it kept getting pushed back. And I remember one day they called me and said, oh, the psychiatrist that you finally have the appointment with tomorrow is now away. So we're going to push it back another 5 weeks. And I just burst into tears. And I'm like, I'm trying to get help. Help me.
Yeah. Here in Canada, my listeners are probably like, Shaylee, you say this every time, but it's like a year and a half wait. And
Oh my
and
God.
there's no in between, not even, you can see like a registered counselor or whatever, but same, they can't give you the meds. So you have two options. And I had to take the one option where you have to go to emergency, or you wait on that
Okay.
list. Yeah. And it's
Wow.
just wild to me because it wasn't an emergency yet. It probably
Yeah.
led to one, but I had to go through that to even
Yeah.
see a psychiatrist. There's no middle ground. So that's just wild to me. But yeah, and then I talked to other people, and in the States, if you have money, of course, or coverage, you can go and get like right away. So it's always interesting to me how it is in
Yeah.
countries. Yeah.
I
So
don't know how it works here for like more adults because I
yeah,
was 24, so I got to
right.
go through a youth program.
Yeah.
So I think that had its advantages. So I'm actually not too sure what the lay of the land looks like for adults. I'm
Yeah.
curious though, so if you went down the emergency route and have to
Yeah.
present to hospital, does that carry its own risks in a way of are
Yeah.
they going to
Yeah.
section you? Are you going to
Yeah.
retain your rights to leave? Are you just
For sure.
taking a gamble there?
Yeah, yeah. So at that point, I didn't care if I was like, I
Yeah,
wasn't
okay.
even
I get
scared
that.
because I was so desperate. And if you need to, but I would suggest like bringing someone with you because I think because I brought my husband and they talked to us separately and saw that I had
Mm,
support and I wasn't a harm to, they asked me repeatedly if I was a harm to myself or others, and they asked him. And so luckily, like I wasn't sectioned, I didn't. And at one point, because I basically went in because I hadn't slept for 2 weeks, I went in and was like, I have a Valium.
yeah.
They don't just give out Valium. Surprise. And so then we had to go through the whole thing. So eventually they sent me home with one after hours. And, but my husband had to be like, bring me back the next day. And I remember being actually in the moment being disappointed that they didn't
Mm,
because I knew that there wasn't much help out there, and I didn't want to leave until I got help, because I knew
Yeah.
as soon as I got out there that I'd be on my own again. So they had a different way of helping. And if the listeners are interested, I talk at nauseum about it. I talk a lot about it in the other episodes. But yeah, but it is. And I think that's really scary for a lot of people. And I think what I would say
Mhm.
to that is I know people have had terrible experiences. I know people have had okay experiences, but if it's going to keep you alive, I'd go, right?
Mm.
And it feels like an impossible decision, but yeah, for sure. So you get into the psychiatrist and
Mhm.
you present what the psychologist has said, and then were you diagnosed immediately?
Yeah, pretty much immediately. It was just a rehash of everything we'd covered during those sessions. And he just said, yeah, bipolar. And then interestingly, like I didn't want to take any medicine or start medication at the time.
Yep.
So again, just the way that I was raised is a bit more like anti-medication and turns everyone to zombies and that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
So I tried initially, I guess, lifestyle and it's quite funny. Like I changed my diet because they said fish oil was good for it. So I started taking fish oils every day as if they were like a
Yep.
medicine that was going to help me. And I did that for about 6 years. I guess it helped me in a way just having the diagnosis and knowing what was happening for me because part of what was really increasing my like overwhelm and just exacerbating all my symptoms when I was in those depressive episodes was just this feeling of what's going on, what's happening to me. Something I used to do in a depressive episode that I don't do anymore is try and fix it and just try and
Mhm.
think my way out of it and look for that cure of like, I've got to do this or this will make my mood turn around. So I was constantly doing that and just burning myself out and just ending up a lot worse off than where I was. But having the diagnosis took a lot of that mental stress away and
Mm,
just allowed me to sit with it a bit more and just I don't need to panic about the way I'm feeling or get overwhelmed about it. It's just bipolar. So I
yeah.
kind that gave me a lot of grounding in some of the like CBT techniques that they taught me and just overhauling my lifestyle a little bit. It helped me manage my episodes better. When I was 30, so I after the birth of my second daughter, she was 6 months old. I had a very hyperactive, hyperverbal 18-month-old ADHD, I know, child as well. So it was a hectic time. I wasn't really coping. We were in lockdown. We had no support.
Oh,
And I just got to the point where I went to the doctor. I was like, all right, let's try something. Like maybe it doesn't have to be this hard because it was bloody hard. And at that point, I actually, before I started taking it, I did like a re-examination with a psychiatrist, which was a very
right.
simple online appointment that I could do. It took about a week to get an appointment. And I just reiterated everything I'd experienced to her. I just felt like bipolar is a funny thing because it's an invisible illness. There's no blood test that says, yes, you are bipolar. So it is something that you do constantly go over and question. It takes a long time to fully accept a diagnosis, at least in my experience. So I wanted to be really sure, I guess, that
Yeah.
was what I was experiencing before I started on a medication for it. But in saying that, I then went on the medication. I've been on it for 2.5 years now. I fucking love it. It makes life easier. I immediately started sleeping better. I still get episodes, but I feel the impacts less. So
Yep.
I'll still feel a depression, but it's rare that it would pull me like down to a point where I can't function or where I can't
Yeah.
get myself out of it.
It's
And
almost muted, right? Like it's just a
it's
little bit
muted.
muted. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes people get disappointed in medication because we expect it to be somewhat like a Tylenol or an Advil. Like I've had people
Mm,
say to me, "Well, you take medication, so you're okay." I'm like, "No, it's incurable, and I am still going to have episodes, but the medication almost like takes the edge off."
it does. Yeah.
And also, I don't know if you found this, but it was hard to, like when I'm in it, it's hard to do the coping. mechanism,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm just trying to survive. And once I had the medication, I was like, all right, I can actually see outside the tunnel vision of each episode, and I
Yeah.
can start practicing this or that or the things that seemed impossible before. Yeah, that's so. Tell me about, I'm very curious. Tell me about what it was like. I was unmedicated with my, because I didn't know when I had my children
Yeah.
as well. My eldest is turning 19 this month. Who even am I? But
Gotcha.
thank you. We made it. I'm wondering, how did your pregnancies go? And how about after for each of them? I'm so curious about that.
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, because for my first child, I was hyper aware that I was bipolar and it carried extra risks through pregnancy and after the birth of the child as well. I had put a lot of things in place. Like we lived right near my parents. My husband was working part-time, like I wasn't working. I had put a lot in place to make that as stress-free as possible. That worked to an extent. Like he was an extremely challenging baby,
Oh,
but I don't know. I feel like we managed. I was aware. I just was doing all the things to look after it. When my daughter came along, I felt like we were just in a situation where like my husband has a bit of his own like CPTSD, and this
mhm.
like becoming a father really flared this up for him.
Mm,
So we got to a point where I was pregnant with my second child that his situation became quite dire, and it
mm,
became more important that we figure out a situation that was working for him. Living near my parents, that we had a father figure thing that was really re-traumatizing for him. And we just had a need to move away, to set ourselves up more independently, for him to get more aligned with a career path that brought him what he needed and stuff. So that became priority, like number one. And I wasn't thinking about myself and my bipolar when we made those choices.
right.
But when we got there, I'd forgotten I'd put it on the back burner,
Mm,
and it crept up on me, I would say. It
yeah.
just felt like it was survival. I felt like I had to cope with this. I had to shove this down because that was our survival focus that
Yeah.
I needed to concentrate on. I do think that's why it got quite bad for me in that 6 months after she was born, because there was just
Yeah.
so much going on.
And was that more depressive symptoms, or did it put you into more of a like a hypomanic or anxious state?
More depressive, I would say. And something I experienced a lot of was overwhelm as well. And I don't know if that's related to bipolar or something else. Now that my son has his neurodivergent diagnoses, I'm kind of like, what's going on there? Because we
Mm,
present very similarly as well. But overwhelm has always been something that comes on quite fast and sudden for me and is pretty all encompassing.
yeah.
So with two under two, I was getting overwhelmed like pretty much from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep. I was just functioning in overwhelm, and that in itself was really debilitating, and
Yeah.
also fed into the depression as well, because it's just no way to live. Like it's
Yeah.
no functional. Yeah, that was probably the major thing. But immediately that's something that the medication helped, was like
Hmm.
situations that would have previously just destroyed me with overwhelm.
Yeah.
I was able to actually manage and calm myself down through and regulate through
Yeah.
pretty much immediately. So that was really good.
Wow. The opposite happened to me when I had my kids. I got really hyper. It was bizarre. And of course, everyone thinks I'm super mom. I never slept when they slept. I remember my daughter was asleep and I redid like my entire cupboard situation. I was like, this kitchen isn't working for me. I pulled everything out. Like she gets up, I'm like, oh no. But just, yes, going to every mom's group, it was wild. And at one point, because they're still trying to diagnose or whatever, they were like, oh, it's postpartum anxiety. But I wasn't anxious, like scared of things. I'm not socially anxious at all. Later, I agonize over things I've said when I'm hypomanic because I don't think, but I'm
Mm,
not socially anxious. And I wasn't worried about the baby getting hurt or anything like that. I was more like, what are the best decisions? And I just wanted to be the best or do the healthiest
Yeah.
things. I remember when we were potty training my first, and I made this like elaborate chart. It was out of control. Of course, we followed it for approximately a day and a half, but I
Yeah.
would just come up with these things. I would have anxiety and overwhelm. Say if we went out and I forgot to put something in the diaper bag, it was like the end of the world. I'm pissed off. I'm mad at
Okay.
myself. I'm irritable with my husband. Like and I would throw these like elaborate birthday parties. Meanwhile, like right up into it, I'm like yelling at my partner or my
Mm.
mom or whoever's there. And then it's like, boom, I'm on, right? That was really confusing for me. And I think that with each
Yeah.
pregnancy, it got more and more. So that's really interesting because I do
Wow.
hear more about depression after. So I'm always like wondering. I had no idea.
I guess you didn't know what was going on
Nope.
for you at the time.
No. So I ended up getting antidepressants, which made it full blown, right?
Wow.
So that's really interesting. I'm wondering if you can explain, because sometimes a lot of people listening, they get the depression part. They
Mm.
understand, they've felt that, but what you actually really need for your diagnosis, and I think that's why it takes 6 to 10 years, especially for bipolar 2. Did you say you lived with bipolar
Bipolar
2?
2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which typically has more and deeper depressions. I'm wondering if you could explain what hypomania feels like in your body
Mm.
and also what that looks like in your daily life.
Yeah, sure. So I think the way it feels in your body, and for me, it can go between having an extra large coffee to having like full on ecstasy or cocaine, is how I would just, if you've ever tried that, that would describe like the range of feeling
Yeah.
can go between I feel a bit extra energetic, like energized and everything's really good. I feel really productive to like full blown just climbing the walls
Yeah.
basically and feeling euphoric and invincible and a little bit godlike in a way. Like sometimes you feel like you are connected to like
Yeah.
source, you are in alignment. And to some extent you are. Like that's
Yeah.
fine. You are. You're in that state. But it can go too far as well. So it's something I do is try and be really aware of when I'm starting to feel that way because I think a lot of people you feel this and you're like yeah and you want to egg it on in a way.
Oh,
See where
yeah.
this goes. It's awesome.
It's so
Um
much better than being depressed, right?
yeah,
At the
definitely.
time, at the beginning.
At the beginning, yeah. But if it spirals too far, it can get out of control. But there are like other things for me is rapid speech. So I start talking very quickly, I'm thinking very quickly, I'm having a lot of ideas. Logic goes out the window, and I think everything is a really good idea. And it's also really important and really critical to be done right here and now. And I don't understand why other people don't see that. And
Yeah.
that gets very frustrating for me. I get less sleep, sometimes no sleep. I forget to eat. I'll sometimes go like days without really eating. I'll just pick at stuff because I'm not feeling hungry. And I
Mm.
can't remember when I ate.
It doesn't feel important.
Doesn't feel important at all. I forget social cues in a way. Like
Mm.
I've been into the office before in a hypomanic state and I just talk to everybody and I'm so energetic and charming and they're like, "Who is this?" And I start really personal conversations and I realize I probably shouldn't bring up these topics with colleagues, right? And things like that. And it's a lot. And the other side of it that people don't hear about very often is there is a very agitative side with it as well. So I get a lot of physical agitation, which I think is called psychomotor
Mhm.
agitation.
Mhm.
So I get really restless legs and they hurt, they burn, like I can't stop moving them throughout my body as well. Like it's just really running on its own motor and it needs to move. And it can feel like you're burning alive from the inside out. Like
Mm.
it is physically very uncomfortable. And that also feeds into the lack of sleep. It's really hard to sleep when your body is that intense. So that
Yeah.
actually sometimes keeps me awake. It drives me to a point of it's maddening. Like it's a
Yeah.
really maddening feeling when you can't get rid of it for days. So there's that side of it. There's a lesser known side of it. The anger is not talked about as often. So for me, it starts off just being a little bit extra irritable, and things that normally don't bother me like really piss me off, and I'll be
Mhm.
quite snappy. I have a very short temper. So like I'll snap at my husband more, I'll snap at my kids more, and it's not grounded in anything. It's just that my fuse has shortened. So I
Yeah.
think those are like for me, those are probably the main things that I experience. I
Yeah.
guess I get really into like in a good way. I've learned to channel them into creative projects if I can, like my writing and my podcast, my content creation. It feels a
Mhm.
lot more productive. So for instance, the
Yeah.
lack of sleep, like I've spent so many nights, I'm sure you have as well, just tossing and turning, unable to go to sleep. It gets really maddening. Now I just get up and I'm like, well, if I'm going to sit here and ruminate and like replay old conversations or have imaginary fights or whatever in my head, I'm going to get up and channel this into my novel or something.
Yeah.
So at least it feels a bit more fulfilling and productive.
Yeah, you brought up a really important point. I had never heard anybody talk about it before, or and also sometimes it takes me a bit to recognize experiences, but I call them my spidey senses when I'm hypomanic.
Yeah.
I'm hot and then cold, and then I'm like feeling anything but okay. Like my temperature
Mm,
doesn't regulate if I'm itchy, or if
yeah.
sometimes it was like people used to think that I cared, and I do. I love clothes and fashion and stuff. But if I was wearing the wrong shoes, it wasn't about looking bad. It's just like nothing felt right. Nothing
Yeah.
felt
Yeah. Yeah.
right if the shoe wasn't
Yeah.
going, or do you know what I mean? I would change a bunch of times, and then lights felt brighter.
Yes.
I get nauseous a lot. Like I feel
Okay.
nauseous. I remember like clockwork every year because I have not so much now, but I used to have quite a predictable cycle for
Mm.
sure. And every spring, when I would start becoming hypomanic, I would take a pregnancy test every time. And
Mm.
you'd think after so many that I'd be like, because I was not, because one of the things is
Because you're
nausea.
nauseous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the less I slept, the more nauseous. So luckily, my medication now, it's I'm out. Sometimes if I'm hypomanic, it takes 2.5 hours to work. If I'm not, it's 30 minutes and I'm done. So
Yeah.
that I
Okay.
am so grateful for. Side effects, not fun. I'm exhausted,
Yeah.
but it's worth it. So yeah, I'm grateful
Yeah.
that you spoke to that. And I remember when another person spoke about it, I was like, yes. And I'm always saying to my husband when I'm hypomanic, do you smell that? Like smells or
Like
like,
sensory awareness. Yeah.
oh,
I love that you're saying this as well because it's something that it gets talked a lot about with like autism and ADHD. And when you're in the mental health space, you see this
yeah,
everywhere and you're like, oh God, I experienced that. Does that mean I'm that or I'm that? But I think it's not talked about so much
yeah.
as bipolar, but sensory struggles is a real thing. I
Yeah.
had an episode during our winter, so a couple of months back, and it was my husband and I were going skiing. So we live in a ski town and we had a day to ourselves where we were going up the hill together.
Ooh,
And we'd done the same thing a week or two ago and had the best day and like flying down mountains. I was riling him up. Like we were just having a great time. But this day, like I was so like physically like uncomfortable, like trying to wear
mm,
ski clothes and like a
yeah,
ski jacket and carry my skis and like also my body just felt wrong. Like I'm trying to ski down the mountain and it's not working. Like my body is not working the way it's meant to. Like I was just
yeah.
struggling to make a turn. And I couldn't cope. I couldn't deal with it. And I was like, I have to get off the mountain. Like I can't. Wouldn't
Mm,
like previously, I would have started drinking and
mm.
done things to mask those
Yeah.
discomforts and
Anything to
mask
feel
those
better.
feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But being in I guess, a better place where I make more accommodations for myself, I was just like, let's go. I can't do this today. We did a bushwalk for set, like instead, and the quiet and being away from the crowds and away from people was like, and just not having to wear clothes. And
Yeah.
it was just so much better for me. Still resulted in a full blown crying spell that lasted for 2 days, but
Yeah. It happens.
It
Yeah.
happens. But
I love that, like that you brought that up, because I think that's what I meant about being, once I'm medicated, being able to like even take a breath
yeah,
and change things. Before, I would have pushed through. Or like you said, I knew that I had an addictive personality, so I didn't drink or do drugs or anything in my 20s, but I can absolutely see why someone would do that. I can absolutely, you
yeah,
just want to feel better. It's, I'll eat something salty and then sweet and then this and then maybe a coffee
mm,
will help. And you're just
yeah,
anything because it
yeah.
feels so awful.
You're
Yeah.
just like grasping at straws.
Yeah.
Maybe this will fix me. Maybe this will fix me. It's quite desperate. And like I say this, I use the word desperate when I've been in a bad place for a while and I start to feel like I just need to come out of this. I just need to feel better. And you start
Yeah.
feeling quite, yeah, this awful, like desperate feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm the double whammy of it all. Then I would judge myself. What's the matter with you? For example, before I was medicated, if I was on that ski hill, I would have made myself be like, you
Yeah.
have to do what you're ruining everything. Like
Yeah.
I have this thing where I would never expect this of anything else, but if anything goes wrong, like that thing about not packing the right, I should be prepared because I think so fast. I should be prepared for every situation. And if I'm not, I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with you? And it's nobody would have thought of that, right?
Yeah.
Like I have one of those purses that have like dental floss, got it. Do you need a bobby pin? I'm your gal, right? I bring
Yeah.
everything. I'm always like over preparing for situations. So yeah, that's interesting. Did you,
It's handy.
before medication or after medication, I'd love for you to speak to both. Do you have a predictable cycle?
Yeah, so I feel like I did in the sort of 6 years and even up until this year, I had a very
Mm.
predictable cycle where I would say probably 4 times a year I would have a depressive episode. That would be probably span the length of 2 weeks. But within that, there's sort of this feeling of going down where I might start to lack lose a sense of meaning of the world. I might start to dissociate. I get a very stuck feeling in the body and movement's very hard to move. I'm just very slow. I feel very confused. And then there's generally a peak or what's the opposite of a peak?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the low in the middle where I might have 2 or 3 days where I'm very teary. I'm having crying spells. Like I'm really not functioning very well at all. And then I'll start to come out the other side of that, but still be a bit vulnerable and a bit fragile for
Mm.
a couple of days afterwards. This year, it's been different. I experienced probably a significant block of hypomania towards the
Mm.
beginning of the year it's when I actually I wrote the first draft of my novel, Hearts of Glass, in about 6 weeks. And I don't know if it was like the chicken or the egg, but
Yeah.
that definitely brought me to a place where I wasn't sleeping very much and I was just like go on this task and I didn't want to lose steam. I had all
Mm.
this energy, it was flowing, and I was just like, I have to get this out. This story has to come because it's a lived experience story too. And it was like it was brewing in my mind for the last 15 years. And it was just like, ugh, get it
Yeah.
out of me. So it was an amazing experience. But this year's definitely been categorized by a lot more hypomanic episodes. But the other thing I think is important to mention is that I experience mixed episodes as well.
Ah.
So that's where I might be, let's say I'm in a depressive episode, I might get moments of euphoria where I've suddenly snapped out of it, or vice versa. I can remember like one explicit time when we had the 2 young kids and I was walking around town with my husband and we were like out on a Saturday, got some coffee, went to the playground, and I'm having racing thoughts and I'm thinking everything's a good idea. And I'm saying to him, like, let's drive here and go to the park. And then I had this idea that we needed to go to the pool and have a family swim and it was going to be the best thing ever. And he said to me like, "Oh, look, I don't really want to do that. And it was like, boom, like that one sentence, like I just plummeted
Mm.
to the floor. And I was like, if we're not going to go to the pool, like life has no meaning.
It's like
What
that.
is the point of anything? What's the purpose?
Yeah.
It's from 100 to zero, like just like in an instant.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I didn't ever understand that before. And I think that I've had that within the last 2 years, this mix, because I'll be like, yeah, same as you, like hopeful or excited. And then the next something doesn't go right, or even something, nothing happens. And then all of a sudden it's no, that isn't possible. This world is horrible. What is even the point? I get that. I know that I'm going downhill when I
Mm,
get what is the point, or this thought over and over, things are hard, things are never going to get better. Things are never going to get better. If things happen with
mm,
my kids or things are hard for them, both my kids have neurodiversity. I just think the world is too hard, and then I start to look at other families or whatever and be like, what would it be like for us all to just not have trouble with brain chemistry, right? How much
yeah.
easier would that be? And so, yeah, I go back and forth, and I didn't recognize that until a little while ago. And I find that like worse, because my like the way I deal with things is very different in each episode. So it's like whiplash. It's like, what? Oh, I should be. I get all confused, and it's almost like it makes each thing feel even worse than if you were just in one. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It, I agree with that. It does in a way because it's just so confusing and you're like, you can't figure out how you feel and you might think you're starting to feel better, but then plummet, you're
Yeah,
not. It's very hard to know what to do for yourself when it's
yeah,
so chaotic like that.
yeah, yeah. Because my thing lately is we're going to waste away. We watch TV in the evening. We're going to look back on our life. And what are we going to be like? Oh, our legacy is TV watching. I'm like, we don't have fun anymore. And our kids are
I love
like
it.
launching, right? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so we're figuring out what we did before we were like these 18, 19 years of raising them. We have this time. And I'm like, we're not fun. We need more friends, we need more this. And so then I'll get excited about the weekend, and then we don't have a plan or whatever. And I'm like, if I can't think of it, and then I waste it by trying to think what's the best thing we could do.
Mm,
And then I end up
mm,
doing nothing. And then I'm like, see, we're not fun. What's the
yeah.
future like where it's never going to be fun again? My husband's like, hold on. Remember how we did this and this? I'm like, oh, okay. It's a struggle right now. And I can look back right now and I can laugh and I can be like, okay. But when I'm in it, it feels really bizarre, because we know bipolar brain doesn't like change, good or bad. And it's like this whole shift. Like, even though I'm a teacher, I substitute, and I didn't work the first whatever years of their life. Like being the CEO of my family, being a mom was like my identity, right?
Mm,
I'm also a teacher. I work with littles. And so this whole idea that I'm like, what am I without that? Even though I'm not without
yeah.
it, they haven't even moved out. I'm not empty nesting, but there's more room in my nest. And I'm very confused about what I should do with that room.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I'm this one precious, how they have all those posters. What are you going to do with your one precious life? I'm like, I'm ruining my one precious life. Then my husband's, remember how like you teach and like you have a podcast and you do this? And I'm like, yeah, but is it enough? I don't know. I
Yeah,
get like
I
that.
so resonate with this whole feeling. Maybe that's part of the bipolar brain
Yeah.
experience. If my husband and I get a red like date to ourselves, I get
Yeah.
really stressed because I'm like, how do we maximize like the
Yes.
value during this 1 hour? Like this needs to be phenomenal. Like we need to like it
Yeah.
has to be this big thing. And then I get really upset if it doesn't pan out that way.
Yeah.
And trying to book any sort of holiday or plan any trip, I'm so particular with plans because I have to analyze all of the different options and then I have to have backup options and then I have to cross-reference and cross-analyze them to figure out what is going to be the absolute best combination of plans. And then if anything goes wrong or we need to change something in the moment, it spins me out completely because I need to do a whole recalculation, including a whole data cross analysis of what the best change of plan will be. And I can't work that quickly because my husband's there. Come on, what are we
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, yeah.
And it just, it
Yeah.
ruins my day. But it's this feeling of, and I experienced the same thing, right? Because as a mom and I already worked full time and my mum was stay-at-home mum and there's a lot of pressure from my family. That's what you do. Like,
Mm.
that's enough. And I'm like, no, I need to work as well. And then
Yeah.
even on top of that, I'm like, what's my purpose beyond working? Okay. Like I need to write my book. But what else do I need to do? Like I need to share my messages. Like I need to keep building. Like I need to build up more. Like it's just then I look at someone like my mom and she's so content and like, this is it. This is all you need to do.
Yeah.
And just people who are like content. And I just don't, I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
What
and
is
there
this
must be
thing?
more.
Content. It's
Yeah.
never, I wonder if it's like a bipolar thing or the way our brains work. It's just, I don't know if it's linked with any, I have no idea what it's linked to, but this idea that my life has to count, that I'm like,
Yeah.
and it's, I don't have the grandiose stuff all the time, but just that I just
Mm.
feel, I don't know, because when you're hypomanic, you feel like you have so much potential, but then you're not, when you're not hypomanic, it's an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
And so then I just never feel like my full potential. This podcast, it blew up, like my content creation or whatever, and it's never, I'm just like, oh, it's just a little, or I never feel. And I remember my friend the other day, she's like, okay, picture a stadium that like this person just played in. That's how many people are in your community. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
holy, yeah. Whereas I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they all hate it. I'm boring. I should take everything down.
Yeah.
But, and before, if I was medicated, I would have bailed on the podcast a long time ago. But I
Yeah.
set it, now that I know how to work with things, I set it up. I've done where I don't do an episode every week because, and I don't
Mm.
say drops on
Yeah.
Monday. I don't. And
Yeah.
maybe that might affect my listenership. I don't know, but I would quit. I know I would quit
Yeah.
if I had such tight parameters. Maybe if it was my, I didn't have my other career too, but I haven't done that for myself. And then surprise if I put an extra one out or whatever, but
Yeah.
I run it very on brand bipolar. And I think that's what's made me not fizzle out after 4
Yeah.
years, right? So I
So
think,
I literally had this conversation yesterday. I'm
oh
so
yeah.
glad you said this because had I've got like a backlog of episodes to put out and I've done the first season and I'm taking a little break, but a 2 week break has turned into 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And I'm like, the thing is, I was running it like, okay, every Wednesday at this time an episode goes out. I've got to have all of this content made to like launch it. And it's just that structure and that rigidity is not good for a bipolar brain, also for a
Yeah.
feminine brain. It's just
Yeah.
like I'm not having it. So I've made the decision that like in order to be sustainable, in order to be more consistent, I need to be less consistent. And I'm just gonna
Huh.
do a record when I do a record, and then I'll quickly wrap it up and I'll launch it out. And if I do the next one 10 days later or 3 weeks later, like it doesn't matter. That's when it's going
Yeah.
out. And like
Yeah.
that just feels a lot more
Yeah.
aligned, like a
Yeah.
much more
Even
aligned and
if
flowy way to
I,
work.
yeah, if I made the plan myself and was like every Wednesday, I would get there and I'd be like, you can't tell me what to do, self. This is, I don't
Yeah.
fit in this box. And you know what? I've had a few people say, and it was like so affirming. They said, the way that you aren't rigid about it and the way that you show up makes me think I could do it because it's not conventional. It's not maybe how
Mm.
everyone else runs it. And I was like, oh, so then I was like, I found the little phrase for myself, on brand bipolar. And I'm like, yeah. And same with like my guests. I'm like, I can't tell you when it's going to come out, but I'll let you know a few days before. And
Yeah.
same with like content creation. I remember I used to think that I had to make a monthly calendar, but then it wasn't exciting or fun to me. I
Yeah,
get the idea
exactly.
when I get the idea and then I do the idea, right?
it takes some of that joy out of it. If you get to Wednesday morning or whatever and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I've got to do that thing today, it becomes very like task
Yeah.
driven and less like inspiration and creative
Yeah. And I feel
driven.
like I'm not being authentic. I've set up, I do well
Mm.
with some rhythms, but not schedules. Like I do Manic Monday or do Thankful Thursday. Like I have a few things to keep me on track. And then the rest is like what I feel or what's going on in my life or heart or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting. I would love to hear. I know that there are so many bipolar bears out there that want to write a book. I would love if you could just tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, wonderful. I'd love to. Okay, so I started writing this a little bit by accident, which is something I never want to hear from a writer because so much effort goes into writing a book that you never want to be the one that sits there and is, oh, I wrote it by accident in 6 weeks. That's the experience I had, and it was like that's like a dream come true. Like I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to have one of those stories where this book just flew out. So that was really cool for me. I have written books before. I've written like fantasy novels before. I
Mm.
wrote one when my son was like a baby when I was on mat leave with him. When he was napping, I would be writing a a story, which was very much a lot more effort went into writing that. So I always saw myself as a fantasy writer, but actually really have found my voice in commercial fiction. So that's
Mm.
exciting. But this novel is about a protagonist called Cassie. So she's 19. She's navigating that stage of life with dating, figuring out her career, complex family dynamics.
Mm.
She's battling a secret drug addiction because coping mechanisms.
Yep.
And she starts to get into a relationship with a young apprentice carpenter called Patrick. And the novel's told through dual perspective. So we flick between his
Ah.
perspective and hers as they start to get to know each other. It all takes place over the course of a month, but we really see her this relationship is very triggering for her. So she
Mm.
really starts to spiral. Her moods really start to escalate. And we see her go down this, yeah, this rabbit hole really and just start
Mm.
spiraling out of control. And we also see from the difference between his lens and her lens and
Mm.
little miscommunications that start to play. The audience gets to see that play out and it really builds like tension throughout the novel. Ultimately, there's a catalytic event and she does end up being hospitalized and for the bipolar community we'll just put it out there, she gets a
Yeah.
bipolar diagnosis, but then we get to walk through her digesting that information
Mm.
and processing that and coming to the realization that if she wants to still live a quality life, she's going to have to make big lifestyle choices and
Mm.
changes and take that seriously. So that's the journey that she goes on. It's set in Newcastle, Australia, which is the place where I grew up. It's an
Ah.
industrial, blue collar-ish Australian town. So yeah, I think it's entertaining. There's lots of swear words. There's some spicy scenes. There's
Oh,
a bit of humor in there. So it's yeah, it's been a really exciting journey writing
that's
it. And I really just hope that young people or anyone can read this if they resonate with what that character is going through. It might lead them to be able to get seek help and get help themselves. It also might shed a little light on because you get to ride those highs and lows through the lens of the
yeah.
protagonist and they're based on lived experience. When I reread it and edit it, I really identify like those waves and those feelings with her. So I think it does shed a good lens on what that experience actually feels like for someone that's not bipolar as well. It just sheds a little light on the experience.
Yeah. And I love that too, because I think that someone that doesn't live with bipolar disorder that may love someone, I feel like they might be more likely to read it. Do you know what I mean? Or you
Mm,
can pass it
mm,
along without actually saying you have bipolar disorder. You might just be like, hey, check out this book, right? Because not everybody's going to sit down and read
mm.
How to Love Someone with Bipolar Disorder. And so I think
Yeah.
that it, I don't know, it's like a little bit more safe. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I'm very excited about reading it. It'll be
Yeah.
amazing. You'll have to keep us updated. Before we move into a section I call going deeper for some of my listeners, I do a second episode, shorter episode with my guests, and I'm going to get Jade to tell me all about her coping strategies. So you're going to want to check that out. It's probably going to come anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks after this one. So it's really good that you're listening to this first. But I would love to know, to tell people where they can find you. Where can they
Mm.
connect with you?
Yeah, excellent. So I'm on Instagram is my main social media platform. Haven't got my head around the others yet. That's daunting enough as it is. But you can find me on Instagram at jade.rose.writes. And I share a lot of content around, I guess, the experience of living with bipolar. And I
Mm,
make that digestible in like little
yeah,
reels that are a little bit relatable or might just shed a little light on what this experience looks like, what it's like to live in a bipolar brain,
yeah,
as well as I do give updates on my writing journey on there as well. So I share sort of writing tips, inspiration, updates from my journey, my process. So it's a lovely way to connect with. I've really just enjoyed connecting with the bipolar community as well
yeah,
as the writing community. And you can also find, if you want to check out my podcast, you can come and find
yeah,
me at the Neuro Diaries podcast. And there's links to that from the Jade Rose Writes account as well. And that's just, it's people talking about their sort of lived experience with conditions like bipolar. I also interview people with autism, ADHD, multiple personalities, trauma stories. So a
mm,
little bit of everything thrown
yeah,
on there. And the idea similar is just to really break stigma through stories of lived experience, which is not all Hollywood portrayals, just actual
right.
lived experience.
Yeah, because we have like doctors or like really highly educated people that don't live with it. It's important, or we
Mm,
have
yeah.
misrepresentation on television. And so
Yes.
I love that I love that we're on the same path with sharing the lived experience. And I think that, yeah, go check out her podcast. Let's support each other. Go give her some love on her Instagram. I'll also have her in her bio and everything in the show notes to get a hold of Jade. And I am sure that she answers her messages. So send her a message
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
you want to connect or ask questions. And yeah, because we love that. We love that is my
Yeah,
greatest joy to connect.
it is. Definitely reach out. If I love when people reach out just asking a question about my experience that might help them in theirs, or it makes it really worthwhile to know that you're making an impact, however
Yeah.
small, or making a difference in someone's day. So, yeah, definitely come and say hi.
Yeah. I know some people are like, oh, you've probably heard it before. I'm like, I will hear it every time. If it takes a
You
while to,
cannot praise me enough,
yeah,
please.
tell me if you relate. I cannot hear enough Me Too's ever. So yeah, so it's really nice. I remember I wanted to interview you and I noticed your account because I know you were brought up some like kind of controversial things about certain other like holistic kind of people,
Mm.
and that you're open to talking about all the sides. I was like, "Ooh, I want to talk to her. I think we need to be podcast best friends." So now we are. So yay.
Now we are. I love that. Yeah, I my degree was in philosophy, and I find it really
Ah,
hard to I just love seeing things from different perspectives before
yeah.
I draw a hard line, or if I
Yeah.
ever draw a hard line, I'm just like, they're all valid. Like, I want to understand why you think that way or why you
Yeah.
think that way. Like, it's all really fascinating to me, and no two people's experience is the same. And I
Yeah.
think there's space for everything. So I,
Yeah.
um, I just love hearing all different accounts from all different people.
I love it. I love it. That's so cool. My friends, thank you for joining us, Jade. I think you're doing beautiful work in the world, and I think truly your work is life-saving, and I know it's going to touch so many people, and I'm really excited about your book when you get it all sorted, get me a copy. We will talk about
We
it. I'm
will.
really, really excited about that. So thank you for being on the podcast. I'm excited about our next conversation. I want to hear how you cope with everything. I am sure that I will learn from you. So thank you.
Thank you, Shaley.
This is Bipolar. Thanks again for tuning in. You can find video versions of This is Bipolar on our YouTube channel. We also have all our previous episodes of the podcast on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, and Google Play. We spend most of our time on Instagram at this.is.bipolar. There is a vibrant community there where we have conversations and post different ideas and different strategies, and we'd just love for you to join us there. It is so helpful if you enjoy our work or think it would be helpful to someone if you could like and share and save and follow us in all or any of those spaces. If you're a listener for the podcast, if you could leave a review, we would be forever grateful. Again, thank you for being here with us. Let's get the word out. Let's share lived experiences so that we can change the ideas that people have about bipolar and help those of us that live with it feel less alone. This is Bipolar.